Hello, and thank you for asking about my son. He is in the picture above. I kind of designed that this last Christmas. It was, I think, the 6th Christmas since I last saw him. And I lost count as part of how I deal with. It's a way of dealing with my separation trauma. Let me say this. For the most part, I believe my son was deported in retaliation because the Utah Mormon government tried to deport me first, but they failed. When I spoke with attorney, I'm not going to mention the attorney by name, in Nebraska, immigration attorney, he said, in the history of immigration, I have not seen a story like yours. These people are going after you, and I'm looking at your criminal record. You don't have anything. We deal with real cases in immigration, and this is not one of them. And he asked me what I did. Governor Bengeta told me, one of my friends, and I quote, because I cannot mention my friend by name, and I probably never will. It would need to be her permission. Governor Bengeta said that I quote, probably pissed somebody off. And I'm telling you about this so you can have a brief overview of what happened. I was attending school at Weber State University, and the LDS, Latter-day Saints people, the Mormon church who attended school at the university, made it seem as though I was not attending classes, even though I was. These were people I attended church with right across from the university, and they tried to get me removed from the country by ruining my immigration files. When they ruined my immigration files, they ruined my dependents' immigration files. Now, that is my story. And it explains how my son ended up on DACA. Because my files as a primary status holder was damaged by the Mormons where I went to school at Weber State University. My son worked at a warehouse where his back was broken. And he saw a doctor in Utah. The doctor prescribed the opioids for him, and that poisoned my son. One day, I got a message from my son to say that he had interacted with the police. The police had arrested him. And as soon as that happened, ICE got involved. I was anxious to learn the details of what my son had done and everything. The person who claimed my son committed a crime, the DA's office, did not appear at least twice. At least twice, and the judge dismissed the case. But at that point, ICE had already taken hold of my son. He was on DACA, and he was on DACA because the Utah government officials at Weber State University, because it's a state university, ruined my immigration papers. That's how my son ended up on DACA. I remember when they were in the process of deporting my son, Utah DA Simgil, they stirred up so much dust. They wanted to protect the citizens, and they were filing a lawsuit against Big Pharma because people like my son had been poisoned, mild prescription, and doctors profiting off of the misfortune. Because from what I read in the lawsuit, some of them got kickbacks. I added my name to that lawsuit, and the state of Utah would not allow me. I joined the motion. It's a long answer, I know. So they deported my son while filing a lawsuit to ask Purdue Pharma to pay for the damages they caused on poisoning people like my son. This is how filthy the Utah government is. They claim to be the best state to live in, the state of Utah. But guess what? It is not. My experience and those of others tell you that it's not. This is the place where a mother and her children lived in a church for years. And the Mormons in government were not even bothered. It's the state where, for the first time in the history of the United States, if I'm not mistaken, a mother was deported during Christmas time. Some people say Mormonism is a cult. I don't know if that matters. I just know that religion has cost me so much damage that I'm just done with it. Utah government framed my son for a crime and had him reported from the United States. And then they had the audacity to file a claim on his broken back so that they could milk the Purdue cow on my son's back. And that is where I lost my Christianity, in the state of Utah. I used to be a very staunch believer in God. Ever since I was a little girl, I believed in God, and I took the matters of God so seriously, to the extent that even my activism, when I fought in activism, for me it was demanding justice, in a sense of loving your neighbor as you love yourself. Does that make sense? I mean, I still engage in activism in that sense, that nobody deserves to be treated unfairly. For me, that's the golden rule. But I was wrong in thinking that the Mormons believed in the same thing, at least not in practice, those in power especially. So, for me, singing was prayer. And very few people in the state of Utah would admit that I sang well. It was only when I arrived in other places outside Utah that I heard people talking about my singing. But what I knew for myself was that singing was how I felt I communicated with God. That was the ultimate for me. And that's how all of my music was. It was to connect me to God for a higher purpose. And something just didn't add up. I thought, I'm singing all the time. God saw what happened to me and to my son. I conceived my son through rape, and I chose to keep him. But I didn't keep him so that the Utah LDS government would make profit off of his body. Because when they moved from compartment to compartment with different places in ICE, that was all the federal consignments. That's not why I chose to have a son. And ultimately, I decided to divorce myself from Christianity. And you can thank the Utah government for that. Because if they didn't do what they did to me, I think I would still be a Christian. But I'm fine. I still suffer immense PTSD trauma. But the idea of separating from God is relieving the burden. It's still there. Thank you for asking, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.